Welcome everybody to Resident Evil News, the series where I talk about all things Resident Evil related, such as new leaks, rumors, fan art from the community, fan projects, and much more. Every week, I'll be covering the hottest topics of the week so that I can keep you guys up to date every Friday on this channel. And today, I will be covering the massive Resident Evil 4 Remake leaks that came out 2 months ago. Apparently, Krauser has been cut from the game, Lewis is going to turn into a boss enemy that you have to kill, and the Hookman from the beta version of Resident Evil 4 is making a return. There is a lot to talk about today, so I'm going to cover all of these leaks, give my opinions, and then I want to hear what you guys think. Strap in, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a bumpy ride. Make sure to subscribe for future Resident Evil news and content, and as always, potential spoilers ahead. I quickly just want to say as well, please check out code UMB87 on Reddit. He's the guy that makes all of this crazy RE4 Remake concept art. He's extremely talented, so be sure to check out his work. I'll have his link in the description. Okay, so the leaks start off by saying that the RE2 remake will eventually be getting an update where you can find a note of the Secret Service contacting Leon about his promotion. It then goes on to say that the dodge mechanic from the RE3 remake is going to be in the RE4 remake, except this time, instead of Leon dodging, he's going to be able to parry a Ganado's attack. And this mechanic only works against regular Ganados. Moving on, it says that Ashley is no longer going to follow Leon throughout levels. Pretty much to break it down, Ashley is now going to hide in special safe rooms. So once you're done with an area, you have to go back to that safe room, get Ashley, and then move on to the next area. And it says here that Capcom is doing this to avoid frustration with the AI. And I think that is a very smart decision because we do not want a repeat of Resident Evil 5. It also says that Salazar's right hand, Verdugo, is going to chase you at some point in the castle, almost like a stalker enemy. And it says that he's only going to stop chasing you once you've reached a new save room. Moving on, it says the merchant remains untouched, but it does say that the merchant is going to have a Spanish accent instead of his original Australian accent. What are you buying? That was such a bad impression. I'm not doing that again. What are you buying? Okay, so next up on the leaks here, it says that Lewis's character has been expanded upon by a lot. Lewis is going to have a much more important role in the story, but this does lead to something very bad. Apparently, Krauser has been cut from the RE4 remake entirely, and Lewis is going to be the character that replaces Krauser. Speaking of Lewis, it says that Lewis is going to eventually be infected with the Las Plagas, and that he's going to mutate into a creature much like William Birkin. And after his mutation, he's going to pursue Leon throughout the rest of the castle, but then he's eventually going to be killed on the island. But I do want to know what you guys think about this. Next up, it says instead of Ganados splitting their heads open to reveal a parasite, in the remake, the top half of the Ganados torso is going to fall off. And these Ganados are also going to mutate into a creature, much like Lewis and William Birkin. I also don't know how I feel about this because in the original game, the Ganado's head splitting open is one of the most satisfying things in that game. Okay, so this next leak also might make you guys a little mad, but it says that Salazar is no longer a dwarf, and instead he is a sick-looking man with a cane, but his personality remains the same. Haha, that rhymed. Salazar's height is one of the most iconic things from the original game, and considering the fact that Lady D was extremely tall, you would think that they would make Salazar the complete opposite, just make him short. But apparently now Salazar is a regular-sized human. I don't know, if they can pull it off, then I guess it works. But man, this is just such a bummer to read. Okay, so moving on, it says at some point in the game, Leon is going to collapse due to his infection, and that Ashley is then going to take his pistol and find the medication to cure Leon, which I think works out pretty well. Next up, do you guys remember the Novastators from RE4? You know, those really annoying invisible bugs? Well, apparently that section of the game game has been entirely cut, and instead, Capcom is replacing it with a Stalker enemy known as the Jester, which is going to be a new enemy in the remake. And this new enemy, called the Jester, is going to use a spear to hunt you down. This sounds kind of cool, so I really want to see how this plays out. So apparently, the maze section from the original game is making a return in the remake, but this time Ada is going to help you out, and it's going to be extremely dark, and Ada is going to point her laser and help you spot enemies that are hiding in the dark. Now this sounds cool, but also pointless at the same time, because doesn't Leon have a laser himself? So I don't know how this is going to play out, but I think this is going to work in the remake. This is going to help build up that dynamic between Ada and Leon. Moving on in the leaks, it says that the island section of the game has been almost entirely converted into a lab section. It then says that the last 30 minutes of the game is just one big chase sequence, and that yes, the game is going to end with Leon taking down Sadler. Ada is going to escape in a helicopter just like the original, but this time Wesker is going to be in the helicopter with Ada, and Leon is still going to escape with Ashley via jet ski. Alright, now to some exciting news. The Mercenaries mode is making a return, but this time Lewis is going to replace Krauser as a playable character. Alright, now for those of you that want to see the Hookman in the remake, I have some news for you. It says here in these leaks that apparently the Hookman is going to appear during a hallucination sequence as a callback. Now what this means is at some point in the game, Leon is going to hallucinate, and he is going to see visions of the Hookman. Now the only problem is we won't actually be able to fight the Hookman. We're just going to be able to see him as a vision. Now I don't know how I feel about this. I would honestly prefer if we could actually fight the Hookman as a boss fight, but look, I'm going to be completely grateful right now. Even if the Hookman is just mentioned in the remake, I will be happy. And for those that still don't know, the Hookman was supposed to be in the original version of Resident Evil 4, as we can see in the beta builds, but he never made the final cut, unfortunately. Moving on, it says that Leon's personality is very similar to the original. So Leon is still gonna crack one-liners and he's still gonna make his usual jokes, but it says this time, this version of Leon is going to be much more heroic. It then says that Chief Mendez has been renamed to Mr. Mendez, and that his boss fight remains untouched. The leaks then state that every unlockable from the original game is in the remake. So things like the hand cannon, the PRL laser, the Chicago typewriter, all of these things are going to make a return in this remake, which is very good news. Now this one might also hype you guys up as well. It says that the game still has the same amount of action as the original, and that you can perform a melee attack if an enemy has been parried or stunned via headshot or leg shot. But if this is true and they mix the RE3 remake mechanic with RE4, where instead of dodging you actually parry the enemy, then that would be awesome, and I'm super excited to see how the gameplay is going to turn out. And last but not least, it says that the Salazar statue from the original game is still in the remake, except this time the statue is controlled by a giant Las Plagas. Now I'm not sure how a statue can be controlled by the Las Plagas, but hey, if the statue is there, then I'm happy. So it seems like a lot of the fans that have read these leaks are actually upset. But again, take this all with a grain of salt. But now I want to know what you guys think. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time.